Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call this special call school board meeting of the San Felipe Del Oro CISD Board of Trustees to order today, Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. Madam Secretary, would you call roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Contreras,
Not here.
Ms. Manawato Webb,
Present.
Ms. Haynes,
Here.
Mr. Mesa,
Here.
Mr. Oberfeld,
Present.
Mr. Smith,
Present.
myself. Sir, we have a quorum.
Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting was duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we will have opening ceremonies, first with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. At this time, I will ask if you would please turn your cell phones or other electronic devices off. And we will follow an agenda. The first item that we have under our agenda is citizens to be heard. We have 10 people that signed up. And the board encourages comments about the public, about the district for members of the public. And as we would at any regular call meeting, members of the public who have followed the instructions at on the meeting notice for registering to speak during the public comment portion will be given up to 2 minutes. We have 10 people that signed up. We're going to allow 2 minutes. And again, rules of order and decorum will be enforced during the public comments to ensure efficient meeting. Again, we ask that you be respectful and not, again, use any foul language or be a professional when addressing the needs of the district. The people that have signed up, again, we have 10. First person being Barry Carriaga. If you would come to the podium at this time.
I'm going to remove my mask so you can hear me a lot more clear, so it's not so mobile. Again, my name is Barry Carriaga. I'm actually here as a father today with several concerns. As I visit your school yesterday to find options for my son if I need to remove him out of school, the only option I had was 20 days. I can pull him out of school due to COVID related, or I can enroll him into a special class. This was the only options that I had that was told by the counselor, and then I met with the principal. He told me the same thing. So my concern today is why don't we as parents have options of if we need to pull our child out due to your COVID rise? I mean, at what point do you take action when your COVID numbers start to go up? And the next question I have is, what contingency plans do you have? And at what point, when that COVID does rise beyond a threshold point? I don't see any contingency plans anywhere on your website of the COVID rise that's happening right now. I mean, we are coming in to October, which is our Halloween, you got homecoming, then you got Thanksgiving and Christmas. Numbers are not coming down just yet. I don't think we hit our peak yet. So the concern is the numbers are gonna rise higher. And let me know when I hit my 2 minutes. So what is our options? And this is why I'm here today to speak, because I've taken my son out of school last week, but I put him back in, hoping there's other options, because I do want him in school. Because last year, he missed out on all the social action with other kids. And that's important, but due to COVID, health is more important, and especially to my family. Is that my 2 minutes?
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you.
I can go on. I don't want to take up the other 9 members that signed up for the meeting, but thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate your time.
thank you. Next person that we have is Laura Plum. The topic again, masks in schools.
So, okay, I've got my timer to help me. Okay, so Laura Plum, I have 2 children in the district, one at the junior high and one at the high school. I know that this is a very divisive topic. We do not want our children to wear a mask at school, and I have friends who do want their children to wear a mask at school. And never in a million years would I stand for something that would force them to go against something that they decided for their child. And I would hope they would afford me the same courtesy to not force me to go against a decision that I made for my child. I have a lot of research here. I can leave that for y'all, but I won't go into it since time is so short. But one thing that I did want to bring up is Texas Education Code 37.0023, and it talks about prohibitive discipline techniques. And I figured that if you can't do it to discipline a child, you shouldn't be able to do it under any circumstances. And it says that you can't cover a child's mouth or nose, anything that will restrict their breathing or hinder their communication. And I would argue that masks do both. And verbal and nonverbal communication is so important to a child's education. Last week, when the plan was put forth that how we were going to go forward as far as letting people know how they wanted their children handled at school, I really think it was a great plan. I don't agree with the school bus thing. I still would like that to be voluntary. But honestly, hats off to Dr. Rios, because I think that that's a very good plan. I think it's a compassionate compromise. I think that parents who want their children to have the masks at school can now rest assured that their children will have their masks on at school. And for those of us who do not want our children's masks at school, sorry, nerves, our wishes will be honored as well. And I think this plan, editing the school bus thing, I think it could be an example for the rest of the state, quite frankly, because I know a lot of school districts are wrestling with the best way to combat this. So I would like the plan that's in place now to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person we have signed up is Helen Klink. Topic, mask mandate.
I'm going to try to read mine because I get so nervous and then I forget everything. So, hi, I'm Helen Klink. I have 2 children at the Del Rio school, and I'm here obviously today to address the topic of masks. So I don't want to argue, and I don't think any of us can argue the topic of it at the moment, because I think we all see how divisive it is. Some people believe that it helps. Some people do not believe that it helps. What I think is the only difference is, and I think it's something that Laura said, is that people, I would say, in my camp, just do not like the enforcement of that. And we do not, one of my best friends has a child who wears masks whose child wears masks to school. I don't tell her what to do with her child. She doesn't, she respects mine as well. I don't call it selfish, because if you look at it from my perspective, I believe that wearing a mask can cause health damage to my child. Breathing difficulties, communication issues. I mean, the list can go on and on. People in my camp, we have all the data and research to prove our point, and people in Camp B have their own data and research. We can't combat this right now because it's so divisive. So what I'm asking is to support the governor's, I know it's in limbo right now because of the Supreme Court, but my hands are shaking, I can't even hold the paper. So I'm just gonna read this. I'm proponent of the governor's actions, and I would like to leave the decision of the discretion of parents whose tax dollars finance the public school system. But really quickly, I know my minute is up. And I know that some school districts and local officials took it upon themselves to defy the governor's orders. So my question for you would be, can me and my child defy the order of our school district if you were to mandate the mask? And what would be the consequences? Does that make sense? Are my 2 minutes up? Was that my timer? Oh, that was not my timer.
2
Oh,
seconds.
okay, 2 seconds. Well, all right, there I go. So, it is 2. Well, thank you for your time. I hope it made sense, and hopefully we can find a resolution.
Thank you. Next person we have signed up is Cindy Cardenas. Again, topic, student and employee mask mandate. Sure.
Hi, my name is Cindy Cardenas. I come today first and foremost as a parent of 2 students in the district. Here is one of them with me today. I'm also an employee of the school district. I work as an educational diagnostician, which means that I help to serve our students with disabilities. I want to thank you first and foremost for being on the board and serving your community. I realize that it's a tough decision that you're having to make. But I'm hoping that what you're hearing today will help you to reflect on what your role is as a board and in our community. I'm not going to argue one way or another about whether or not people should wear masks. I think people should have the right to make their own decisions. And just like she was saying, there's data on both sides of the issue. My husband and I have already made our medical decisions. We've made them for ourselves, we made them for our boys, and we believe that it's for us to make and nobody else. Likewise, I feel that students and employees should be given that same right to make those medical decisions for themselves. We don't agree, obviously, with the implementing of a mask mandate for students or for employees. Students with disabilities have been exempt from wearing masks and no documentation has been required. It's understood that not everybody can or should wear a mask. The governor's order does not ban people from wearing masks. You can wear 5 masks if you want. You can wear a face shield, you can wear gloves, you can do all of that. It strictly prohibits those that are in authority from prescribing a medical device as a blanket one-size-fits-all approach. We know that that is not good and people should be given the right to decide for themselves. As employees and school officials, also you should not coerce individuals into compliance by threatening with any kind of harassment, segregation, disciplinary action, or the removal of free and appropriate public education for students. Last year, we did not agree with the mask mandate. We pulled our kids out of school and we homeschooled. We sacrificed a year of public education. It took some time, but we did it. And so we are prepared to do that again this year if there are mask mandates put into place. Last year, we gave you the power. This year, we're not giving you the power. So as an employee,
Time's
I'm
up.
not going to comply. We're not going to comply for our child either. So
Time's-
I hope that you take it upon yourself with the mission statement of the school district to have courage and be able to reflect
Time's up.
self-direction. Thank you.
Next person we have is Sara Alcantara. Mask mandate.
Hello. My name is Sara Alcantara, and I'm coming here as a mother of 2 boys that I have in the school district as my friend and fellow friends that I've said that are in the same camp. Last year was stolen from us. Last year was very different, but this year we want to take that back. This year, right now I just want to start with a question to the school board. And it's, when have you ever mandated a kid to wear a mask when there has been the flu or the seasonal cold or tuberculosis or any other common viruses that can be spread with just by air or by saliva, just to name a few. Why are you not encouraging parents and children to live a healthier lifestyle instead of encouraging to mask up or use that medical device that is just getting on the way for them to breathe and to be able to see the teacher when they're teaching their enunciation? You might say you do, but you're not pushing it as hard as you are to mask up and to encourage the older kids, teenagers, to vaccinate. And I just want to end this to say that we are free people with different backgrounds, with different opinions, but still free to choose for ourselves and decide on our own as parents if we want to mask our children or not. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Next person we have is Lucia Rodarte. Topic, extension of leave for COVID-19.
Good evening, President Mesa, school board members, and Dr. Rios. My name is Lucia Rodarte. I'm a lead of the border organization and member of the Cafeteria Workers Association. We are here tonight not to only support mask mandate. We are here to also ask for the border to vote in favor of the extending of leave for employees quarantine due to the COVID-19. We believe strongly that the extended will assist district employees if they will become infected. A lot of us do not have the 10 days to be quarantined, and we need to pay to keep and household a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person we have signed up is Ruben Chaitis, mask.
Necesito traducción. Buenas tardes, soy el pastor Rubén Chaires, líder de la Border Organization. Quiero decir dos cosas. Acabamos de salir del contagio del COVID-19 porque una de nuestras nietas, que está en un grupo, ¿verdad? Todas sus compañeras no traían máscara. Y mi esposa y yo fuimos contagiados, ella es asintomática, pero señalo esto que si todos hubieran traído máscara, nosotros no hubiéramos padecido. En torno a la máscara, quiero decir lo siguiente, que si hay un porcentaje alto de papás que están de acuerdo en que sus hijos usen máscaras, entonces, y otro grupo no está a favor, que mi recomendación al school board, es que todos los que están a favor de la máscara o van a usarlos, pudieran estar en una sección, en un salón juntos, homogéneos, y todos los que no quieren usar la máscara estén en otra área distante, porque los derechos inalienables de cada persona terminan donde comienza la libertad del otro. Entonces, no sé qué va a ser el resultado de la votación, pero esa sería la petición a favor de proteger la vida de los niños que sí usan máscara. Gracias.
Gracias. Next person we have is Reverend Guadalupe Mora.
Buenas tardes. Yo soy el reverendo Guadalupe Mora, capellán de una organización, una institución de capellanas que tratamos con diferente problemática de la sociedad. Tengo dos hijos que son maestros en el distrito de Dallas y en el distrito de San Antonio. Ellos están trabajando con niños. Estos pasados días, algunos compañeros de ellos fallecieron por el coronavirus. Creo que cada quien tiene diferente criterio en cuanto a este término. Yo como un profesional de atención en la tanatología, en atención a personas en crisis, puedo ver que hay niños que tienen diferentes complicaciones y lo entendemos al usar sus máscaras. Pero respetando el criterio de cada quien, también tenemos que ver qué criterios se sigan con estas clases. Mis hijos que están dedicados al magisterio, como maestros, han tenido que tener sus clases por Zoom también con los alumnos, porque el grado ha sido muy alto en esto. Sabemos que al tener la relación, el contacto físico, se expiden diferentes situaciones en las cuales se puede contagiar. La máscara es incómoda, es cierto, pero es necesaria. Viendo este término y lo que ha pasado, creo que tendríamos que ver este criterio.
Gracias. Next person we have signed up is Irma Cárdenas, the unmasked mandate.
Good evening, President Mesa, school board members, and Superintendent Rios. I am Irma Cárdenas, a leader with the board organization. A year ago, I was in the hospital for 6 days with COVID. I felt I was going to die. I cannot imagine children going through what I went through. Gasping for air, high fevers, headaches, and severe aches and pains. We are present this evening to ask the school board to mandate masks. It is about science. It is not about politics. It is about health. It is not about politics. It is about life and death, not about politics. Thank you.
Thank you. Last person, we have one more after that. Stephanie Alsop is next. Mask mandate for employees and students.
Good evening, members of the school board. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm here today to voice my concerns about the mandatory mask mandate. I would like to go on record that I oppose your consideration of a mandatory mandate for students. I have a 6th grader at San Felipe Memorial Middle School, and we came from St. James Episcopal School last year. And we did not miss a day of school. We did not have a year stolen from us. We were able to attend school every day of the year last year during the height of the pandemic. It can be done, and it can be done safely. Our family would like the option to allow our child to wear a mask when needed or to remove it when appropriate to do so, without a mandate for constant mask use. Our daughter has asthma, and it's been challenging for her to wear a mask constantly. I think her mental health and the mental health of our students must be considered here. As a healthcare worker myself, I have successfully worked through our essential business throughout the pandemic while protecting our patients, our staff, and our visitors from COVID-19. Our current company policy allows patients to choose whether or not they wear a mask when they come into our clinic. The right to choose based on personal risk factors, personal beliefs, and one's environment, which is exactly what our students should be allowed to do. Our staff members, our teachers are adults, and they have the right to wear a mask should they choose to do so. But our students, are whom you are telling, must wear the mask constantly. I respectfully ask for consideration in discussion if there is a mask mandate passed, that you place parameters on it. We cannot simply have a blanket mandate with no sense of when it could be
Time's up.
removed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had one other person sign up as physician's assistant, Paloma Carriaga.
To the school board, thank you so much for letting me speak. And I think, I really want to talk to everyone, and I want you to really hear me, because I'm the one who really sees the COVID patients every single day. My name is Paloma Carriaga. I'm the nurse practitioner of Dr. Jaime Gutierrez, who is our local health authority here in Del Rio. Del Rio tests, and I want you to hear the truth, Del Rio tests 60 to 80 every single day for COVID. We see patients, normal patients, plus, we test our positive patients. I talk to them, telehealth, we do telehealth just to protect ourselves. And I've never had COVID. I received my 2 vaccines because I believe in science. And I do really believe in rights, the right to choose. And, mandating masks, I think, is, for me, the most important thing right now is the health of the kids. I don't know if you guys have already looked on Facebook. I don't have Facebook. I do, but I don't use it. August 23rd, COVID-19 update. 7-day positivity rate of 43.9%. So this is high, okay? 100% of all hospitalized are not vaccinated. 11 to 88 years old are the age range of the ones who are hospitalized. There are 478 active cases right now. So I think if I'm gonna choose between wearing a mask or, thinking of, okay, wearing a mask and, kids will have breathing problems, I would choose the life of my kid. Delta is very different than Alpha. Delta is more deadly and it's more contagious. And I hope that everybody can, be on the same page. We have to really take care of this virus, decrease the spread, because we're tired. It's every single day, 12 to 18 hours a day. We call patients. We take care of them. We send them to the ER. We're trying to do our best not to send everybody to the ER, because our ER right now is packed. So how can I take care of other patients that have chest pain, right? How can I take care of other patients that have a stroke? Are we gonna send them to the ER if we don't have any beds? San Antonio has no beds. Where do we send them? Are we just gonna let our kids get sick? Right now, the first week, my son told me, Mom, there's no social distancing. We're elbow to elbow when we eat. This has caused my son to have some mental issues, mental problems, that he's scared now. And my son is very active, he's very sociable. And now he's like, Mom, I don't wanna eat because I don't wanna take off my mask. So I think we all have to think about our kids first, then thinking of, okay, the mask will cause breathing issues. Yes, but think of what if the kid gets COVID it's going to be a bigger problem for us. The hospital, we don't have a lot of ICU beds. We don't have PD beds that can accommodate the surge that we're going to have pretty soon. So I think we have to be all together and think about a solution of how we can do this and tackle this problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank all the people that spoke. Again, we do listen, and I appreciate you coming before the board. We go on to the next item that we have, administration, 10A, discussion and possible action to mandate masks for employees. Dr. Carlos Rios.
Mr. Mesa, if it's okay, I'd like to make the presentation from the podium, and then I'll
Sure.
come back up for questions. Thank you, Mr. Mesa, board members. In anticipation of tonight's discussion, we wanted to put together just a couple of facts so that y'all may consider them when making having your deliberations and ultimately taking a vote. We just want to talk briefly about student cases, staff cases, how many parents are in support of masks, what efforts have we taken, and some things that we have to consider, particularly if mask mandate is approved. What does that mean for the student body? So we'll start with just the weekly report that we'll be putting up on our webpage. This is only part of it. We had 48 cases reported last week, which brought it to a total of 85. But then when we consider the cases that were reported yesterday alone, we had 19 cases. Maybe some were over the weekend, but yesterday we had 19 cases, which brings us to a total of 104 total cases since school started. Now, we do have an enrollment, again, as of Friday, it was 9,700. Right now, we're about 9,800. So that's just slightly 1%, 1.06% of students who are either active or have been active in the last 2 weeks. That does not count the cases that were reported today. These are student cases. You can see that these are elementary campuses. There are a few elementary campuses that have had more COVID activity than others. And then we have some, Irene Cardwell and North Heights have had 0 student cases reported. But Ruben Chavita Elementary was one of the lowest, the campuses with the smallest enrollment. They had 13 cases reported over the last 2 weeks. And then Lonnie Green had 8 and Buena Vista had 5. Those were our highest campuses. We talked to the principals, we've talked to the health authority to see if, are these some in particular classrooms? Are they siblings that maybe both of them, brother and sister, brother and brother had it? And there really isn't a pattern. If we look at one campus, it is a 5th grade issue. But if we look at another campus, it's some here, some there. It isn't, it just isn't all located in one room. There isn't cases 2 per room, sometimes 3, but not everybody is linked. It's more across the board. At the secondary level, it's a little different. Maybe because some students have been vaccinated. I know Del Rio High School, the largest campus, has had 12 cases. And the large part of their cases were in one student organization. And everybody else, San Felipe Memorial 5th grade did have 5 cases. But again, it's across the board. There isn't any one pattern where they're necessarily getting it in one classroom, with the exception of that one elementary campus. Now, we look at our staff. We've had 12 cases, active cases. Some other concerns, but they proved negative, and those are their assignments, whether it's a campus or a department that have had the disease, contracted the disease. Again, this is since July 21st to now, we've had 27 cases. If you remember back in July, we stopped tracking and we stopped reporting it, but if we go back, that's how many cases we've had. A lot smaller than we had before, in large part probably has to do to a significant majority of school employees being vaccinated, adults. So now, in the last week, we did start seeing a surge in cases. We went from none reported to a whole lot, and then we saw some organizations. So then as a group, we got together and we, as an administration, we had not asked for a mask mandate. Some other superintendents and other districts did that. We chose to instead call the parents and ask for their cooperation to see how many of them would be willing to allow us to make sure their child was wearing a mask. If they didn't bring one, to give one to them. If they forgot to wear it above their nose, to encourage them to wear it above their nose. So we asked principals, well, I directly asked teachers to call and ask principals to enforce that. Enforce the teachers calling the parents. And we got tremendous results. At the elementary level, out of all the students enrolled, 93.7% of all families have been contacted, where we actually had a parent indicate a yes or a no. And out of the 93.7%, 95% of the parents, 95.2 to be exact, said absolutely, have my child wear a mask. This is huge. So hats off to all the teachers that responded to our request. Hats off to the administration who supported that. We got a tremendous response from the elementary levels. And as I visited the campuses, even the very next day, we saw just about everybody wearing a mask. This morning, I again visited Del Rio High School, and I walked in different wings with the principal, and I saw a large number of students wearing the mask, which is great because at the beginning of the year, kids came with masks, and then as the days went on, it's only been 2 weeks, then we saw some kids being lax about it. But when we launched this approach, it was just a whole lot of students masking up, and it was comforting to see that. Now, at the middle school, the story's a little bit different. 80% of the parents have been contacted, and the 80% contacted, 92.6 were in support of us having their kids wear a mask. And then when we look at the high school campuses, Del Rio freshmen and the others are listed there, again, 80% of the parents were contacted, and 72.27% said, yes, I want my child wearing a mask. So this was our effort. Rather than have a mandate and really have more division, we wanted to gain the parents' cooperation. And so far, it's not 100%, but we do have a large support, I would say overwhelming support, to have their kids wear a mask. So now, what happens if a mask mandate is approved? We often have teachers say, all right, so if you have a mask mandate, what does that mean for me as a teacher? What do I do when a child either forgets a mask, refuses to wear a mask? Tell me what you want me to do. And the answer is a little difficult to come about. I know that a parent asked that earlier. So I reached out to our attorney and I said, hey, look, other districts have been doing this before we have. What do you see occurring? And they say they treat it just like a dress code violation. So in our case, what would we do if a child was not in compliance with dress code? Well, we would ask them to fix it. We'd have a conference and say, okay, put these warm-ups on, or put this belt on, or cut your hair, etc. We would do the same in this case. Here's a mask, put it on. Well, I'm not going to put it on. Well, then you can't go back to class. You have to go to ISS. And they spend the rest of the day in ISS. And that's what we would do, because it's a violation of the dress code. What happens if they do it a second time? Well, the second time, the exact same thing happens. When you violate a dress code the second day in a row, same thing happens. You go back to ISS until you fix it. Third time, same thing happens. After the third time, well, now it's insubordination. So now you have to be suspended from school. And now I'm not saying this to sway the board one way or the other, but we have to look at the whole aspect. If we're going to have a mask mandate, There has to be a consequence. It can't be just put on a mask. No, I don't want to. Okay, we'll go back to class. We'll do it again tomorrow. There has to be a consequence, or we're going to have mandate. And it's for this very reason that we sought to get parents' cooperation, because when a parent agrees to it, you have a large number of students that are still going to wear the mask, and you avoid the distraction, you avoid the fight, you avoid the division, which is already there, but at least we as a school system avoid it. Now, seeing the numbers go up, nobody has a silver bullet. Nobody can predict what's going to happen today or tomorrow, but this is what we've done so far. Because of the proximity in buses, I did mandate, as a superintendent, I did mandate that anytime a student was in school transportation, whether they're going from home to school or school to home, or on out-of-town trips, whether it be by an R2IL, whatever, that they do wear a mask. And I'd like to continue with that, regardless of which way the board votes. But that's where we're at, and those are the things that we've done to try to mitigate the situation. So now the board has to have discussion, and they have to consider some things. Some options that we tossed around were, have a mask mandate for employees only, and for students continue with what we're doing now. Another option is issue a mask mandate for district employees and wait a period of time to see how this voluntary mask situation works. Or if we're going to have a mask mandate, then let's have one, but just for 30 days to see if the situation gets better or gets worse, but then we already have something in place. And we're doing as much as we can to prevent it, but it doesn't prolong it to say, let's have it for the rest of the semester. Let's have one for 30 days. Or are there other options? But this is what we talked about. Obviously, it's not my position as a superintendent to recommend a mask mandate or a no mask mandate. I can only share with you what we've discussed and the discussions we've had with teachers. I will, to the best of my ability, enforce what you all decide today. If there's any questions about the data that we shared, I'm gonna take my seat. I would ask Ms. Hernandez, she's kind of like the district leader in gathering the data, and if there's any specific questions, she can inform us on it. Okay.
So one quick question before you get down, just because, right? You mentioned about, student consequences, but what about teachers, faculty, that kind of thing, if they don't follow?
That's different, sir. Teachers get paid.
I figured it would be.
Teachers get paid, and there is no first chance, second chance, third chance. It's immediately insubordination.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Board members, there are some options. But we'll have Sandra again come up in case anyone else has a question. I'll turn it over to board members. Mr. Smith?
I've got question statements, whatever, I'm not sure. So first of all, I get, at the end of the day, obviously we've got differences of opinion both sides of the aisle, right? I mean, it is what it is, right? There's a lot of emotion with this subject. In my brain, I can't get past the fact that we've got a executive order that says that we can't do this. We've got a judge that might be throwing some temporary restraining order against that, right? Which means that it's a temporary restraining order, right? Then you've got letters, and I can share this with the board, that say it's from the governor's office saying that if we as a district, any district in the state of Texas, violate the governor's order, regardless of what's going on in the other courts, that there'll be legal action that the state will take against the district. And why would we have something like that on our agenda with as much emotion. I've got a phenomenally good program that Dr. Rios has rolled out for the district that is proven successful. There's a lot of emotion inside this room. There's a lot of emotion inside every classroom on any day of the week. We're wanting to throw more fire into this. Just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't support it. There's no reason for me to hear a lot of debate from both sides of the aisle. It just makes no sense based on the current condition. But I got the state telling me that if you don't do what I say, I'm going to have court action against you. And for us to be having that conversation, and we got some great, strong programs that are in place to mitigate the risk, I'll tell you, there's not a person in here that hasn't violated a mask rule inside a public place, period. You do it because it's just part of the deal. And our kids are going to do it, and our teachers are going to do it. And what's the ramification for that? And are we going to be spending so much time focused on discipline and putting them in disciplinary programs because they didn't do what they were exactly supposed to do, versus let's get them educated. So anyway, I'm not for it. I don't really have a lot of questions. At the end of the day, we all got our opinions, and that's the way it's going to be going forward. We got some nice programs. Let's just stick to our programs and go forward. I'm not in favor of mandating mask. I am in favor of promoting and providing a help chain system for our kids in any way that we can, but mandating our kids to get into this, especially at this stage of the game, I'm not for it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I just want to just point some information, and again, for the rest of the board members, that the Fourth Court of Appeals already rejected the mandate from Governor Abbott. We have until December when it goes before the state Supreme Court. In the meantime, Texas Association of School Board, TASB, has issued out a letter to every school district that if we're threatened with a lawsuit, they're prepared to defend us in court at no cost to us. Just information. Now, I will say that as a former educator, principal, and now on the school board, parents entrust their children to teachers to safeguard their health and safety. And we know that many teachers have lost their lives when there's school violence because they, again, go and take whatever comes at them to protect their own. Principals have done the same. At school board, teachers take care of the classroom, principals, the whole campus, board members, the whole district. And I just want to safeguard the health of both students and staff. Now, I appreciate the parents coming before the board, and I would have no problem to say option 3, we'll try it for 30 days. As you know, the flu season is coming up. It'll protect everyone. I think we did not have a flu season last year because of masks. We had very few teachers and students getting sick. I am in full support of masks for both employees and students. Anyone else? Ms. Webb?
First of all, I want to thank all of the individuals that spoke today, either for or against. We all have our opinions about whether it's important or not important to our families. I know, and this is hard for me because I've lost relatives to COVID. I've seen people in the hospital, children in the hospital, and parents can't go in there and see them. Your own parents, you can't go in there and see them because they're confined to ICU I personally want to thank Paloma. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you being here. I know the hard work that Dr. Gutierrez has been doing. And I don't know how he does it, going throughout the city in different facilities, trying to take care of everybody. So congratulations to you, Paloma, and your department. Please let them know that we really appreciate everything that you're doing for the children. I don't know how many children are in the hospital right now with COVID, but I do know we do have some. I do not like to hear students being afraid to walk into the cafeteria and have lunch, or afraid to take off a mask to eat because someone is sitting right next to them. That is not right. That is not right for our students. And I say that as a past counselor because I dealt with a lot of these students. A lot of students that were afraid to come to school for different reasons. And now we add on top of that, we add COVID. And in listening to some of or Paloma made that statement about her son, that's not right. Our children come to school to learn. They should be able to socialize. However, they should not be afraid. 1, to eat in the cafeteria. 2, to even come to school. We had a parent that made a statement, what is our plan? What do we have? Do I take my child out of school again and homeschool? Are we gonna be doing homeschooling if we have a massive COVID breakout like we did last year? And I can tell you, and principals that are here, our teachers did a great job last year, and it's very hard for them. It's very difficult for a teacher to be teaching in class and also doing online classes. Teachers are afraid of coming to work. They're afraid of getting sick. They're afraid if I get sick, I have 10 days to either get better, or what happens if I pass away like my father did or somebody did, and who's going to take care of my kids? These are individuals as well. So just as we are listening to you as parents, we also listen to the teachers in the district. And you might say not every teacher wants to wear a mask. But I will tell you right now that every teacher that I have spoken to wants to do what is right for the children in their classrooms. They want to come home to their own kids. They don't want to be afraid of coming to school and then getting sick, and then where do they go? So again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Mr. Orfield?
I defer to the others and then I'll go last.
Okay. Anyone else?
I
Ms.
respect
Haynes?
everybody's opinion. I really do, but I've already made up my mind a long time ago. But I do, I respect everybody's opinion, I really do. But my mind is already set, so I don't, everybody has a choice. But I sit here in this chair and we have a bigger decision to make. So I've already made it, I've already prayed on it. And I've asked God to help me make sure I'm doing the right thing. So I've made my decision.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. Ms. Gonzalez?
There was some talk about special needs. What do they wear? They don't have to wear masks? Are they isolated? How do you take care of special needs kids? The ones with asthma and all that, do they wear masks or do they put them somewhere else or what? How is that handled?
Ma'am, obviously, we haven't had to cross that bridge yet because there isn't a mask mandate.
Right.
But should there be one, everybody would be treated like we treat 504 cases, students with disabilities. And the 504 committee would have the latitude to make decisions for each one of those children individually. And yes, it would more than likely result in them not having to wear a mask. Perhaps we would provide them with a face shield instead of a mask. But those options will be considered by the 504 committee. It would not, I'm not able to make a blanket decision for every child with a disability.
Okay. And as far as the teachers, the special needs teachers, they wear special masks, don't they, so the kids can see their lips? I've seen them do that.
Shields.
Yeah, right here, yeah. So. And also, what about the vaccine clinics? Are they being attended pretty well by the students?
That's the I don't want to say disheartening because everybody has their choice of whether to get vaccinated or not, but there have been ample opportunities for adults and for students to have their vaccines. We provided a clinic at the high school twice, and we provided 2 clinics at the middle school. And in each case, we got right around 100 students. So the numbers are low in terms of school-age children being vaccinated. They're I would say considerably lower than adults, 18 and over. The students that we had to quarantine, it was a surprise. In one student organization, a lot more, 60% of the students did not have their vaccines. So they were forced to quarantine, both from the organization and from school. But again, I've been talking to some parents who don't want their child vaccinated. They have concerns, and I'm not going to debate it. But the ones that haven't been vaccinated are primarily the ones that are getting COVID, and definitely primarily the ones that have been ended up in the hospital. I think somebody mentioned earlier, 0% of the hospitalizations are vaccinated. So the people that are ending up in the hospital haven't vaccinated, and that's unfortunate. So very few people are taking advantage of it. Long answer to a short question, ma'am.
I appreciate it.
What's our vaccination rate for our teachers and employees?
I think, Mrs. Gonzalez, I don't know.
I got it.
Asking a
I'm just
question.
asking a
The
question. It's a simple
Air
question.
purification has already been in the classrooms now. What are they called? This filtration, what are they called?
The board
For
voted.
the oxygen thing.
The board voted last meeting to have a $2.2 million air filtration system. But I mentioned at the meeting that having the purchase approved by the Texas Education Agency was going to take some work. Tomorrow, I have a scheduled phone conference with the Texas Education Agency about that very topic. It's about 80%, sir, from the last time we looked, which was last year.
Anyway, so it's for the classrooms and for
It's
offices? Or-
Classrooms in large spaces like cafeterias.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smith, anything else?
I've got some more things, but I'll get back to it.
Okay. We go to Mr. Orfeld.
I'm gonna throw the fuel on the fire. We talk about it not being a political issue. We talk about it being a social issue, whatever it might or might not be, but it has become a political issue. And everyone out there had their chance to talk already. It's my chance to talk. So can you imagine us trying to eradicate polio or smallpox in this day and age? No way in hell it would happen there because of the political division that's going on over that. In 1918, when the Spanish flu hit, they did masking back then 100 years ago, but history repeats itself when you tend to go in and forget it. And as a history and government teacher, I know what I'm talking about there. We talk about mental health. And yeah, I was online at home for the last 18 months because of the pandemic, along with my 2 kids there, and it messed with me mentally there. My son, who spent first grade online, that was an adventure for me to go in and have to teach my classes and then go in and teach him as well in between my breaks. He's back in school, and I pray every single day that he doesn't bring that shit home because of what's going on around him. The issue of mental health, where was the outrage when we've been doing mass shooter drills, where we've had to teach our second graders and first graders and kindergartens how to duck and cover and get up under a thing when someone is trying to get into the building and kill them, like we've seen in Sandy Hook and Columbine and other places like that. Where was the outcry about the mental health? Because that affected them as well. The first time my daughter had to do that, that was a difficult conversation about coming home and having to talk to her about that. First day I dropped her off at the middle school, I had to have that conversation. If this happens, you run. If you can't run, you hide. If you can't hide, then you fight. And there's a mental aspect to that. We talk about the mental aspect of what this is doing to them. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff we can throw out that causes mental trauma. And I throw this question out rhetorically because, yeah, there's science that say, or there's research that say these work, there's research that say these don't work, whatever side you want to be on. But we've got a physician's assistant here and people who are in the medical field. Rhetorical question, when you go to the doctor and they're going to operate on you, they're wearing a surgical mask. You cool with them not wearing a surgical mask while they're cutting you open? It's not to protect them from you. It's to protect you from them so that they don't spread anything while you're cut open and stuff like that. So it blows my mind as to what has happened in the last 2 years in this country over flipping masks and trying to protect not just our children, but everyone around us. My employer, I'm mandated. I have to wear the mask. I don't wear the mask, I'm escorted outside the building, and that's it. My job's over and done with. Plain and simple. But I like what I do, and I'm not going to go in and not wear it, even if it is uncomfortable trying to lecture and Zoom to 3 different sites with my college kids while wearing an N95. You know, yeah, I'll admit it, it sucks, but my employer says I have to do it, and therefore I'm doing it. The issue of, right now, 11 to, the 10 to 19 is the highest category in there because 12 or 11 and down can't get the vaccine yet, so we know that. So that plays into those numbers. And then the fact that we're back at school. Just today, I was notified one of my students was COVID positive, and they were in my class yesterday. I wear this to protect the people around me because, hell, I don't know if I have it right now because I was in the same classroom as them there. So if you're cool with me coming up and talking to you, with without my mask on after being exposed to someone who has it, we can meet out front and talk after it's all over and done with. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't like that it's become this divisive thing. I don't like that teachers have been cussed out on the damn phone when we asked you simply, do you want your child to wear a mask, yes or no? That's all it was. Do you want them to wear the mask, yes or no? And all you had to say was no. We didn't need a diatribe about this and that and et cetera and mandates and stuff like that. And, someone's already sent an email saying, I reported you to the Texas Attorney General. Okay, that's great. In loco parentis there. I'm not worried about the lawsuit and stuff. Because one, I wasn't appointed by the governor of the state of Texas. I was elected by the citizens of Val Verde County, and I'll listen to both sides. I've listened to both sides. I've taken your emails, I've read them, I've taken your calls and stuff like that, and all that's going to go into consideration when the vote comes down here in a minute. But to verbally assault our teachers and our administrators and school board members and stuff like that, there's absolutely no excuse for any of that going on. You can believe it one way or another, and I'll respect that. But when you take it to that extreme, then I've got problems. Don't tell me to stay in my lane. Okay? I was elected to do a specific job. If you don't like it, 2024 is when I'm up. So I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Rufo. Go back to Mr. Smith.
I'm gonna pass. I think I've said enough, and we all got our positions, and I'll respect everybody's position.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Dr. Rios, we go on to item 10, administration. Discussion and possible action to mandate masks for employees. No, Sandra will serve for questions. Sandra, you want to, who's reading the administration?
No, that would be me. If you could just put the slide on option, on the page with options, Sandra. So, Mr. Mesa, this is a different type of item because it's a very respectfully, as the superintendent, I took the risk of recommending mandates for masks on the bus. But as an employee of the district, I'm also licensed by the state. And I can't, in good conscience, make a recommendation that I know is not in keeping with the guidance that we've gotten from the state. I will, to the best of my ability, enforce any decision that's made by this board, but I am not prepared to recommend masks one way or the other. That recommendation has to come from a board member and acted upon by the board. And then I will gladly, to the best of my ability, enforce your decision as board.
Okay, great. I just want to reassure the parents that are here and everyone else that we discuss all kinds of things, like, for example, when students go into the school, the number of students in a hallway, where they're redirected in the morning, sometimes to the cafeteria, where we've seen some issues where we have a large number of students in the cafeteria at one time. So we're trying to do everything that we can so that we can alleviate some of these problems that we're having with the spread of COVID. And so every day there's discussion. And I'm glad that administration has options for us, board members. If anyone would like to make a motion.
On item
10A.
10A,
Yes.
you want us to make the recommendation, right, sir?
As a board member, you would move that the board approve whatever your wishes are, sir.
Okay.
Item 10 has to do with mask mandates for employees. I make a motion that we mandate masks for employees of the district. Is there a second to the motion? Ms. Gonzalez, all those in favor? Or all those against? Were you against, Mr.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 2 against. Motion carries. Go on to item 13, consideration and possible action to approve, I'm sorry, 10B, discussion and possible action to mandate masks for students. Again, we do have several options to choose from, and I'm open to any suggestions from board members.
I will say this for the sake of discussion. We've already gone in and asked parents their wishes as to whether or not they want to mask their students or not. And I'm fine with staying with that. But I'm not going to make a recommendation.
Anyone else?
Sorry, Josh, I didn't understand your recommendation.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. I was just saying that because we have already asked, the superintendent directed teachers to go in and ask their homeroom classes and ask the parents, do you want us to mask your children, yes or no? And we've already got that feedback, and et cetera, and 90% have said yes for the most part, that I don't feel there's further action warranted at this point. It's not worth the headache.
Yeah, I'd second that.
So there just needs to be a motion. I'm not motioning
Yeah, it's not a
anything.
motion, so it's just,
It's just for discussion.
yeah. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Webb.
In listening to Mr. Oberfeld and Mr. Smith, I think we're making reference to option B, looking at the options that are up there. So we're not mandating for students, but we can always come back and see what the numbers are in the near future if it's affecting our students and our students returning to school. So I think we're looking, Dr. Rios, is that what?
Mr. Reza, if I can just elaborate a little bit on option B. Because we have overall a high percentage of students that are masking up, option B involves, one, me working with the superintendent, working with the principals to ensure that the teachers enforce. And unfortunately, I'm going to take the opportunity to apologize to teachers, because at the end of the day, the enforcement of it does fall squarely on the teachers' shoulders either way, whether it's a mandate or this cooperative measure that we've taken. But the idea is that we would monitor the enforcement and also gauge the students that are contracting the virus moving forward. So at the end of the day, if I determine that better than 90% are masking up and the students that are contracting the virus maybe aren't masked up, okay, well then we come back at the next board meeting and say, hey, this idea didn't work. Maybe we should go to masking up. So that's option B. And again, I'm not recommending any option. I just wanted to make sure that there was items that we could discuss. But that's the idea behind option B, that we monitor it until the next board meeting or have a special call meeting between the September and October board meeting and review the data to see if our initiative was successful. But that's what option B is about.
Mr. Mesa?
Yes.
So why don't we, so if you're waiting to the next board meeting, why not choose option C and then have the students mask mandate for 30 days? I mean, and
that's
then if it
logical.
doesn't, if it's where it needs to be, or if it's dropped, then the 30 days is over.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that could also have gone for the teachers as well. We could have done a 30-day mandate as well to see how this is going to play out, because something has to be done. And like I said, I respect everybody's opinion, and I have mine, and I do have grandbabies, and my choice is to mask, and I do want to get, like I said, but 30 days gives us a chance to see, and it also gives the teachers a chance to see. So I don't know, but I am going to vote for option C. That's where I want to go, for 30 days, so we can see how this is going to play out.
Thank you so much. And again, I do want to assure everyone here that we listen to you and we want to do what is right. I'm going to make a motion that we adopt option C, issue a mask mandate for students for 30 days. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? 3. All those against? Okay, 3. Motion dies. Dr. Rios?
Mr. Reza, if I can just provide some clarification, and right now I'm talking to the principals and the teachers. The fact that the motion failed does not mean that we don't enforce a mask mandate the way we began last week. Every teacher, every principal, every counselor is expected to have their 95% of students, or 97 or 80 if it's at the high school, wear the mask. That is a directive from the superintendent. So I trust that everybody will do everything in their power. When we walk into a classroom, I expect that there be masks available for students that didn't have it. Last week, we did a random walkthrough of all the campuses. And when we asked teachers, where are your masks? The answer was, I know where I can get some. That's the wrong answer. The answer is they're right here on my desk for any student that doesn't have it. I've since talked to the principals, and I trust that tomorrow, or really I trust that since yesterday, 100% of the classrooms have additional masks available for every student who doesn't bring one, and parents have consented. Furthermore, principals, any parent who has not been contacted or has not returned our phone call, I encourage you to keep contacting them. But until you contact them or until they respond, we assume it's a yes, it's an implied consent. So parents, if you have not replied to the principal, It is an implied consent. We're assuming the answer is yes until you call and say no. So please, if you have not responded, all we need is a respond. Please be kind, because the teachers have already been asked to do a lot more than they normally would, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Next item we have is item 13, Business and Finance. Consideration and possible action to approve a resolution regarding extension of leave for employee quarantine due to COVID-19. Dr. Rios?
Yes, Mr. Mesa. This is another issue, maybe not as divisive, but we do have, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and our employees are working in the schools where they are contracting the virus. And it's just unfair, in my opinion, to have them come to school, contract the virus, and then have them go home and take their own days, because we can't assume that because they contracted the virus, they're not going to have any other needs that they would have. The contracting the virus doesn't exempt them or somehow create a shield for them not to, have to tend to a child or tend to an elderly parent. This is extra that they're contracting. This is an above and beyond burden on any employee, and it's not expensive for the district. One, you saw that we only had a handful of cases for teachers. Two, when they do contract it, if we have to provide a substitute for them, the district's only paying the substitute rate, whether it be for a custodian or a cafeteria worker or a teacher or a bus driver. In all the other cases, the rest of us pick up the load, and we don't, and it doesn't cost us anything to give them the 10 extra days. So for this reason, as an expression of goodwill and providing for our employees, I am recommending that we approve a resolution to grant 10 extra days for any employee who contracts the virus, not because you feel like you have to isolate because your child is sick, or not because you feel you came in contact. When you are actually lab confirmed positive, we will switch those days that you took from personal leave or got docked and then count them as this COVID leave that we're talking about. But just because you think you're sick or because you think you were in contact, those days are not for that. Unfortunately, there was too much leave last year on this COVID leave, and really people weren't sick. They thought they were sick, but they weren't. So anyway, that's the resolution, Mr. Mesa.
Thank you, sir. And again, I just want to reassure all the employees that this is something beneficial for everyone that contracts the COVID-19, again, where you have days available. So this is a resolution that will help all the employees. And again, you do have to show proof of a positive test to be able to get those extension of leave and not be docked for your pay. Is there a motion?
Well, wait a minute, we got some questions before we
Discussion?
go into motions. So first of all, what is allowed today? What's our current allowance?
I'm sorry, if I can have Ms. Garcia, because I'm gonna, different positions have different numbers of days, right?
Okay.
So if Ms. Garcia can answer that question.
Currently, our leave is, we have 5 days, 6 days, and 7 days. So it starts with teachers get the 5 days for local leave, and then our 11-month contract, 6, and then our 12-month contract, 7. And then we also get 5 state leave days that everybody gets.
And that's a year, and that's accumulated. So if you're a 20-year person, that's accumulated through time, or
Right, if you don't use
you'd
it,
have-
it goes.
if you
Right.
didn't use them, you had them built up.
Right. And then we also have our 11 and 12-month employees, they also get vacation days or non-duty days also.
Okay.
Just a point of correction, sir, on the employees that get the vacation days, you lose those if you don't use them. They roll over for a number of months. Then if you don't use them, you lose it. But that's only for people like principals, cabinet members,
26.
superintendents. So it's very limited.
I'm just going to make a comment because it doesn't feel, from my perspective, I mean, I'm compassionate in the fact that that I really want people that get infected with COVID to be covered, right? During that quarantine time. I'm struggling with how you throw a benefit, an added benefit at a disease, because, I mean, you've got other diseases that are out there that require more than 5 days to deal with. So I'm struggling with, it just feels unfair, almost prejudice kind of thing, to throw more time to a name, and the other guys that may need the same extended 10 days won't get it because they got another name on a disease. So I'm really struggling with that one. I get the compassion side of it, but also don't understand the ethical, or is this even legal to throw more at a name of a disease? Have we scrubbed this with the attorneys? Do they agree with it?
Mr. Messer, members of the board, yes. We drafted the resolution based on a previous resolution that the attorneys had drafted for us. And then we sent it back to the attorneys for any revisions. And so it's fully vetted through our attorneys, and it's in line with what other districts have already done for their employees.
If it's legally been vetted, which I'm not sure I've seen that, I'll take your word for it because I trust you more than you know. So I'll support.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, we'll entertain a motion for, again, resolution regarding extension of leave for employees. Motion made by Mrs. Webb. Is there a second to the motion? Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Overfeld. All those in favor? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.